Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the homestead. Well, I think we have waited long enough. Between the crazy weather and the extra projects around here, we just have not started seeding anything in our garden yet. I think we've had the last of our frost this last weekend, so it is time to start putting some things in this garden. What I'm seeding today is some lettuce, some green onions, some spinach, carrots. These things make good companions. And if you're not familiar with companion gardening, I'm gonna go ahead and attach a link down below this video to hopefully help you guys out with that. There are things that grow well together. Oh yeah, and radishes too. There are things that grow really well together, and there are things that do not. So I really love getting the most out of the location that I'm using. And the way that I do that is by mixing things up. So for example, lettuce and onions are very good companions. They grow well together, they support each other. The way that they use the nutrients out of the soil, they're not in competition with one another. Also, onions and garlic a lot of times will keep away pests from the area, so it's good to plant them with your lettuces. Anyway, there's a lot I could say about that, but I'll attach the link to that below the video, and hopefully you guys can learn a little bit more about companion gardening. So the way that I'm going to do that is I'm actually going to mix my seeds. So I'm going to take my lettuce seeds and the green onion seeds, and I'm going to mix them together. And because these seeds are so small, I don't want to actually like dig into the soil and plant them in there. It'll just end up being too deep, and I'm afraid they won't sprout well. So what I'm going to do is just broadcast the seeds on top of this mulch that I have here, and just kind of rake it into the mulch so that it gets down below that and into the soil, makes contact with the soil. And then I'm going to just water it in. Now I say I'm going to water it in. We're supposed to be getting some rain this afternoon, so I'm hoping that that'll just take care of the first day of watering. When you seed these things, it's important to water them daily until they get established and start sprouting and start doing well. So at the beginning, I'm going to have a lot of watering to do, coming out here and making sure that they're watered every day. And also, because we're seeding these so late in the season, I don't expect to get full heads of lettuce, which is okay. Depending on what area you're growing in, you might not have the ideal season to grow certain things. I know that, like I said, right now we just finally made it through our frost. And I know that in a couple of weeks it's going to start getting hot, like really, really warm. Lettuce and spinach does not do well in the heat. When it gets hot, it'll bolt. It just grows really fast and goes to seed right away. Also, they start to become bitter. So it's just, it's not an ideal time to grow lettuce or spinach. But what I am going to do is heavily sow them so that instead of growing them large, leaving a lot of space between them and growing them large, I'm going to sow them really close together and harvest them while they're really small. And that's where you get your baby lettuce and baby spinach and baby kale and all those really yummy things. So downside to that is you have to use a lot more seed because you're heavy seeding an area. The upside of that is you still get food. So seed is really not that expensive in the long run, and you end up still being able to get a harvest even though you might not be able to grow those things to full maturity. Now the other downside to that is that you will not be able to harvest your own seeds, most likely. So I may leave a couple of these and see if I can get them to full maturity and see if I can harvest some seeds, especially if they're my heirloom variety. I have some that are just organic, and some that are actually organic heirloom. So those things that are heirloom, I'm gonna try to see if I can salvage some of the seeds for future crop. These green onions, I'm not going to harvest at the same time that I'm harvesting the lettuce. Those will be able to stay in there for a lot longer. So what I may do is find something else to sow in there when I harvest all of the lettuce and the spinach, and just leave the onions in there, and I'll find the next thing that companions well with onions, and I'll put that in there. Also, if you're noticing that I'm mixing a lot of different lettuces in there, because I don't plan on harvesting any of these for seed, what I'm really doing is creating my own salad mix. So just taking a lot of different types of lettuce and sewing them together. I have some spinach and some kale that I'm putting in there too. So again, it's just going to be a really good salad blend. When we planned out our garden, we went ahead and covered everything with this woven weed fabric, except for a couple of rows, and this is why we left these rows open. When we plant this garden, we are going to be burning holes into this woven weed fabric just where each plant will grow. But because we are heavy sowing this, obviously we wouldn't be able to do that. So what we did is we left these rows open, and we're just broadcasting the seed across the top of the mulch, and then we're going to rake it into the ground. So on the left side of the garden, I seeded all of my salad mixes and my onions. And on the right side, I'm going to seed all of my radishes and my beets and my carrots. And I'm going to alternate the varieties so that I don't lose track of what I have where. If I'm trying to save any of these for seed, I want to make sure that I keep those varieties separated. And since we're talking about not losing track of where I seeded where, I always write down where I've planted things in my garden. I don't really count on my memory to remember those things because we do have a pretty large garden, and it won't be long before I'm going to lose track of that. As I'm sitting here in the garden working, I can hear all the birds chirping around me, and it's so adorable and it's so exciting because it's springtime and they're excited too. But one of the reasons that they're excited is because somebody is seeding her garden. And birds just love that. They would love to come out here and eat all of the things that I've put in the garden today. And as much as I love birds, I really would like them to not eat my lettuce and my carrots. So what I'm doing is I'm making some garden decor. Have you ever wondered why when you buy garden decorations there are a lot of the spinning wheels that are aluminum foil and they sparkle and they shine? Well, that's not just so that they look pretty. Their purpose is to keep birds away from your garden. So we actually tried this around our chickens because we were having problems with hawks. And we put some of these discs around the chicken coops and it kept the hawks away. So I'm hoping that it'll have the same effect on my garden. Here we go. Some garden decorations, and hopefully it'll keep those birds out of here and let them go and find seeds somewhere else. Well, my first day of spring planting is behind me, and I am so excited, and I'm really hopeful that I have a successful garden this year. I have to be honest, I have never successfully grown carrots, so if it doesn't work in here, then I may have to try some container gardening for those and see if we can have a little more success that way. Guys, I want to encourage you to try to grow something. If you don't have a garden, you may have a front flower bed. You can put some lettuce or some spinach in there. Believe it or not, it can be quite pretty and make beautiful trim, so maybe try that. If you live in an apartment or just have a very small place, then try some container gardening. That might be successful for you. Thank you all so much for coming along. If you have not already subscribed to our channel, please do so. Until next time, y'all have a blessed day. Bye-bye.